Well, hello guys and welcome to another episode of Young with Ram, the series where you put up the questions and I answer them, or at least I try to. As always, remember after seeing this video to put your question up in the comment section below and to upvote those questions that you want to see answered. And well, without further preamble, let's get into the questions. Ram, were you part of the Skynet Spanish Squadron of Locon Modern Combat? Well, actually, this is a funny thing because no, well, first of all, I wasn't part of any squadron in Locon. I just played it for fun and not really flow it a lot online. But the thing is that in those online flight simulators I have been part of, SSHI, IL2, now War Thunder, I have never ever been part of a Spanish squadron. I've been, yeah, that's true. I'm quite the international guy when it comes down to squaring up. Right now in War Thunder, I'm not going to be part of any squad. It's a personal choice. I don't think I'm in a position to lead one, and I don't really want to be part of any squad at all. Besides that, gives me a chance to fly with everyone and anyone I want. But back in the day when I was flying SSI, well, I was part of several multinational squadrons. First of all, I was part of GJ2 Richthofen, which have Englishmen, Americans, Germans, Czech people, but not a single Spanish, rather than me. And there was a Spanish squadron in SSI. Later, I was part of another one, GJ54, Grunhers. And that one was mostly made of Belgians, Germans, a couple of English, I think, and even a Croatian guy, and then me, which again Spanish, and yeah, and later on I was even, and this is one of the most funnier times I have had flying online. Back then, when I was flying SSHI, I was known as the archetypical Focus 590 driver. I was probably flying that plane 90% of the time, if not more actually. And I was widely known as a very good and very capable pilot of the Focus 590. And just for the fun of it, and just for the sake of it, and just as a tongue-in-cheek thing, one of the 308 Squadron, City of Krakow, which is, if you don't know, it's an historical squadron of that flew with the Royal Air Force, flew Spitfires, and they were all Polish. They were all Poles coming from occupied Poland, who had run away from the Nazi invasion, and they actually flew in the Royal Air Force to fight back the Germans. And of course, these guys were all flying Spitfires. And well, it's pretty funny because really, for a dedicated Focus 180 driver, the archetypical and the dedicated enemy is going to be always the Spitfire. It's is that way. Is that way. Is the plane that really the Focus 190 was brought to fight off in the same play in the first place. And we were having some very fun time in the forums of the game at that time, because of course I was also known as a guy who knew a lot about both the Focus 190 and the Spitfire. And you all know that I don't really like the Spitfire. It's not that I don't like the name or the plane. I mean, it's a legend, it's a myth, it was an extremely good plane in the same way that other many planes were. It's a legendary plane that got its status well deserved. But the problem is that its flying characteristics, I don't rate them very high because I think that other stuff matter most. For me, it's all about boom assumers, and the Spitfire is not good at boom assuming. So I don't think it's the best plane around. It's not that I dislike the plane, it's the same with the 109. I don't fly the 109 a lot. Why? Because it's not a plane that really suits my flying or my flight style. But anyway, the thing is that back then, as a known Focus 590 driver, I was approached by these guys, funny guys, and I was actually invited to join them. Of course, joining them would mean that I would be flying Spitfires all the time. And recognizing the tongue-in-cheek nature of the approach and the implicit challenge it was, I accepted. I actually accepted. And for a couple of months, I couldn't believe myself. I was flying Spitfires all the time. And that was a funny time. Really, really funny, people. I really loved that time. Was probably the funniest time I had in Warfare, in SSHigh. Excellent people, excellent guys. Really had a very, very, very big respect for Polish people from them back then. But yeah, in what regards to the question, no, I have never flown with any Spanish. Well, I have flown with them, of course, but I have never been part of a Spanish squadron. Why? I don't know. Maybe I don't feel the need to restrict myself to flying with people from Spain. Internet is a global thing, and I like flying with people from all around the globe. So yeah, I guess that's the reason. So yeah, next one and next question coming next. Do you think HB should restrict planes that fought in that time period and theater of war? Say, for instance, there shouldn't be mixed in Corson or Cuban or Corsairs in Ruhr or Bulls, etc. It's an interesting concept, and I think it would be cool to have. But I don't. Let's see, one of the things of War Thunder is that you can fly the plane you want at the moment you want, and that means that the map rotation it never has to be a problem for that. I mean, if you want to fly a Hellcat and there's Ruhr in the rotation, then you wouldn't be able to fly an F6F because Hellcats didn't fly over central Germany. But still, if you want to fly the Hellcat, why not? What I would do would be to put a limit to the matchups. For instance, I would keep any Korean era planes restricted with a special matchmaking to fight each other. So any plane that was of the Korean era or a project of the same era would have to fight other planes of the same quality. Why do I say this? Because really the ganging up of World War II planes by people flying MiG-15s or F-86 is getting old. I mean, it's useless to fly German or Japanese at high tiers because you are going to face odds you simply can't fight off. And even while in this video you are seeing us flying and fighting MiG-9s with success, that's because most of that team of MiG-9s was full of morons, and because the MiG-9 can be fought off. But the MiG-15, if a MiG-15 pilot simply has a clue, I'm not saying this good, I'm saying has a clue, is absolutely, utterly uncatchable for anything that's not an F-86 Sabre. And if it's good, even the Sabre can catch up. So I would restrict that kind of matchups. Korea, for instance, so I would make it the only map where the Korean war jets can fly. I would do that. But other than that, I like the idea, but I don't think it would work because, as I told you, if you want to fly a plane and there's there's no map in the rotation that's going to allow you to fly it, I mean, it's going to hurt people, and that's not good. So yep, that's what I think of it. Next question. Hey Ram, so your favorite German plane is the Focus 590 and your favorite American plane is the F4U. What are your favorite British, Russian, Japanese and Italian plane of that period historically and in game? Well, in game is not in here yet, but it will be. The British plane, my favorite one is the Hawker Sea Fury, which was kind of a navalized advanced version of the Tempest Mark II for the Navy. Radial engine, quite heavy, laminar flow wing, excellent boom and summer, deadly weaponry, excellent performances. Yeah, that's my favorite British plane for it. It's that one, has to be. I mean, it's the kind of plane that I would love to have a shot at flying. Russian. Well, I honestly think that Russian planes weren't very good. They were very limited in their nature. They were very limited on purpose because they were done that way. They were intentionally built with the least expense possible, and they were very crude as a result. They were very basic and very. I mean, Soviet doctrine was that a frontline fighter was not supposed to survive more than 10 engagements. So they never built a fighter that could fly more than 10 missions on the front. Until very late in the war, of course. So I don't think their technology was very good. If I have to pick one, if I have to pick a Soviet fighter, I would go for the LA-5 or the LA-7, but probably the LA-5FM because it was. It was there before and fought most of the war since 1943 until the end of the war. The LA-7 was much later, but that doesn't mean that I think that the plane was especially good. I don't think Soviet fighters were really high in quality. They were very high in numbers, of course, and in pilots as the war were moving on. Since 1943 onwards, the average Soviet pilot was very competent, but the planes, I don't think they were very good. I honestly think that the best fighters the Soviet had were Lend-Lease ones, American ones and British ones, not their own. So yeah, that's hard to say one. The Japanese, oh yeah, it's hard to choose between two, J2M Raiden or the Ki-84 Frank, the Hayate. The first one was a very fast climbing interceptor with rather high wing loading for Japanese standards. Still means that the plane was very good at maneuvering. That was rocket climbing. That would make an interesting plane to fly. And the Ki-84, I think it was the best Japanese fighter of the war. So yeah, that one I like it a lot. And about the Italian, I would go for the G56. I've seen a lot of you guys in the comment sections saying that the 5 series of the Italians was so good. I agree, they were very good planes and they were very nicely done. Italians were very good at building airframes and very good at aerodynamics. The problem with the Italians was that they simply didn't have any engines. So they had to use German ones. So you have the MC202, which is a Italian fuselage mated to a Daimler-Benz DB601 engine. Then you have the 5 series, which are the G55, the Reggiane 2005, and the Fiat, I think it was, G55, which are Italian airframes slapped onto German DB605 engines, which were very good. I mean, they were fantastic. But there was a one-off prototype, one of the kind, only one was done, which was a G55 fuselage mated with a DB603 engine. And okay, let's say that this plane in 1943 was putting up performance numbers that the P-51D Mustang was having trouble meeting at 1945. It was that good. It was simply astonishing. The engine, the DB603, was the best engine of World War II, in my opinion. It was made with an excellent fuselage, and the result was an absolutely fantastic fighter. There was even talk in the Luftwaffe, in the RLM, the Race Ministerium for the Air, to actually phase out the 109 and introduce the G56 in production. In the end, it wasn't done because it wasn't feasible. I mean, the production numbers would have gone to hell, and Germany couldn't allow itself to go that way. But there was some really serious talk of adopting an Italian plane with a German engine as the main Luftwaffe fighter. It was that good. I mean, it was impressive in all regards. It was incredible at maneuvering at all speeds. The report says that the performance was absolutely stunning. It had an incredible battery of weapons. The less armored version would have had 3 20mm cannons. Maneuvering, boom and zooming, it was a wonder. It was probably for me one of the best fighters of the war. But the only problem, It was just a prototype. It never entered the production. It never saw operational service. But that's my favorite Italian plane. I think it was a Terminator of the year. By the age, this plane. There are two planes in the Axis that I think that are two of the biggest what ifs in that era. One of them was the Focus 190C, and the other is the Italian G56. Sorry, both have the same engine, the DB603, and both were simply scrapped as an idea because of production problems and political decisions I don't really agree with. But well, the thing is that they were two of the best potential fighters of the war, and they never got past the pre-production stage. So yeah, those are my favorite planes for British, Russian, Japanese, and Italian planes. Let's move on to the next question. And the next question is, hey Run JP, since you like to get your feet off the ground any way possible, have you considered gliding, microlight flying, or even balloon flights? Well, I guess I could, but the thing is, the idea I have is to get a proper pilot license for proper planes. Microlight flying seems very fun, but I'm not sure about going up in a string bag, which basically is what an ultralight is. Gliding, it will be fun. Gliding is something I really thought about, but first I want to get a proper license for powered planes before I strap myself into an unpowered plane for obvious reasons. But yeah, I have thought of it, but first and foremost, and the first thing I want to do is to get a proper pilot license. But of course, being the economy like it is going to take a while. But eventually I'll be there, I'm sure of that. Next question in line. Hey Ram, I was wondering, how did you find out about War Thunder? Oh, the mighty Jingles. I was a subscriber of Jingles since he was putting up his first mega contest, and suddenly in January he put up a video of this game of warplanes going up against each other, and I was like, heck, that's my thing, I have to try that out. So I downloaded the game, I started playing, I loved it, but after a while I got the idea of starting making videos. Also because of the mighty Jingles, by the way. So you can thank Jingles for that. Yeah, he's basically the reason, and that's how I actually got wind and got an idea of what War Thunder was, and that's why I started playing it. So yep, let's keep on going, and next one. This question goes hand to hand with one I was asked last week about the Spanish Civil War. It says, Spanish Civil War map scenario in War Thunder. Good idea or too touchy of a subject? Good idea. And whoever thinks is politically incorrect, he can go fuck himself. It's that way. I mean, history is there for everyone to learn. That people don't like history or don't like what happened in history doesn't prevent that history is history. So yeah, I would love to see a Spanish Civil War map scenario in War Thunder, indeed, and there are planes for that. I mean, we have the Henkel 112, we have the Henkel 51, I'm guessing we'll have the CR32, we are going to have several of the 109s that flew in Spain. Actually, the E3, the 109 E3 flew in the last stages of the Spanish Civil War, so it's perfectly feasible. We have the I-15, the I-16 planes that actually flew over Spain as well. So yeah, I'm all for that. The planes are there. The setup is pretty easy to do. I would love to see one Spanish Civil War scenario in War Thunder. Of course, flown by Civil War planes, because if you are going to put a MiG-15 over Brunete, I'm going to freak out. But other than that, yes, of course, I would love to see that. Next in line, do you build model kits, planes, tanks, ships, cars? If not, what do you think about this hobby? I tried to. Back when I was much younger, when I was maybe 15, 16 years old, I tried my hand at making models of tanks. My first one was a model of a Panzer III, Next, I tried to do a model of the Bismarck, the German battleship, and I think I also did an F-18, yeah, a Super Hornet model when I was maybe 20 years old or something like that. But the thing is that they were crap. I simply don't have a skill to do that. I don't have the patience. I don't have I don't have the hands to do that. I think I am a pretty creative guy, but I simply don't have the, let's call it, hand ability, the manual ability. I'm not an artisan. I'm not good at making stuff. As a result, while I have tried several times to do models, well, let's say that the final result wasn't exactly the prettiest one to see, so I simply stopped trying to. I would love to be able to do nice models. So it's something that, I mean, I admire everyone who makes creative stuff with his own hands, but I'm not able to. It's one of the things I can't do. So yeah, that's it. As for what I think about it, of course, I like it a lot. I wish I was better at it. So yep, that's it for this question. Let's move on the next one. Ram, do you have a pet? Yes, I do have a pet. Or I'd rather say that he has me as a pet. I have a dog. He's called Thor. And hold on a second, I'm going to show a picture of him. There you go. He's Thor. He's a mix of a Braco, which is a hunting dog, and a German Shepherd, which is, as you all know, guard dog. Is a highly energetic dog. As a result, this little devil is so full of energy, it's almost impossible to manage. It's I mean, I love him to it. He's so full of energy. He's so lovely. He's one of those dogs who simply love to be between people, and the problem is that he's a pest. I mean, he's all around the people who come to my house. He jumps at them. He never stops until they start petting him. But I'm well. Taking him for a walk is one of the most challenging things you can do. Someone asked me how do I work out? Well, believe me, 20 minutes giving this thing a walk is better than 1 hour at the gym. I can tell you that because he's relentless. He never stops pulling. He's so curious. He goes everywhere. He tries to sniff everything. And yeah. I'm going to say it. I'm proud of him, even well. Sometimes I can't stand how he never stops. I love him to bits. I love dogs in general. Since I was a little kid, I have been between dogs. In my family, there's always have been a dog when I was a kid. And of course, well, you have to go through the bad times when they pass away, and sometimes it's very hard because they are going. Probably one of the hardest and most sad moments in my life was when we have this dog. We got it from actually we didn't buy that one. She was mostly German Shepherd, but was a mix of a lot of races. We got it from the protection center, those places where they collect abandoned dogs, when she was a tiny little thing. And she was with us for 15 years. And she was super healthy, super healthy. Of course, she was old, she was having problems with her eyes, she couldn't see. Basically, she was blind. But she was doing very well. I mean, physically, she was very strong, very tough. But one day, she got a seizure. She had an attack. And of course, we were very worried, and we took her to the veterinary. And it turned out that while she was in a perfect physical shape, she had developed a brain cancer, a tumor. And they tried to give her some medical stuff to tumor at check for a couple of days, just in case somehow it would become smaller and would stop giving her seizures. But it wasn't to be. It wasn't to be. The poor dog, after the attack, couldn't stand up, couldn't do anything. I mean, so we took her back home for the last night, and just to check if the medicines were working, but it was pretty obvious they weren't. And I spent the whole night sleeping on the floor beside her, just, well, saying goodbye. And the thing I remember from the next day was my dad opening the door of my room. I was back home at my parents back then. It was during Christmas, by the way. And he opened the door in a way that he slammed it against my leg because I was sleeping on the floor, besides the dog. And he didn't have to ask. He just looked at me, and I was, well, during all the night I had been checking how she was doing. And at one point she was putting her little legs over her face, as if she was trying to get something away from her face. It was clear that she was feeling pain in the head. So my dad looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said no with my head, and that was it. We had to take her to the veterinary, and, well, we were with her when she passed away, and it was one of the worst moments I have been through. I mean, I'm lucky enough that, in a personal sense, out of my close family relatives, only my grandparents have passed away. Of course, it's a law of nature. People get old and they pass away, but thankfully they all died at a very, very pretty old age. I have been lucky that I haven't had to deal with any close relatives' deaths other than my grandparents. And so I guess this is foolish to say, but I really felt that one. And this one, Thor, I got actually against my opinion, because, well, I was going out, I was dating a girl back then. We had been 4 years together at that moment. And she convinced me. She wanted a dog, and yeah, well, okay. The thing is, I'm living in a house that's actually not mine, it's my parents'. I'm the one who's actually running it and the one who's actually living in it, but nominally the house is my parents'. And when they knew I had a dog, they almost went mad. And rightly so, because this little fella you saw in the picture before destroyed several chairs and a lot of furniture as soon as he started growing teeth. Fun thing is, we got this dog, and maybe 3 months later, the girl dumped me. She actually left me. And when I told my mother, I called her and I said, "Oh, look at this. Well, she's gone. She's broken up with me, and blah blah blah." The first thing she told me was not, "Oh, I'm sorry, boy. I mean, it was 4 years of relationship. This was serious, and the things were looking forward for the future." But she didn't say like, "Oh no, poor guy. I'm sorry, and don't worry. There's another." You know, the kind of thing moms say when that happens. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't ask if I was doing well. So what she did ask was, "Oh," and I'm guessing she takes the dog, isn't it? And I'm like, "No, the dog. I'm staying with it." And she's like, "Shit." Ah, mothers, gotta love them. So yeah, well, that's going to be it for this Young with Run video. Sadly, the video you are seeing, the battle you are seeing, you are not going to see till the end, because my hard drive was full and the recording stopped. If you are wondering how this thing ended, we were about to kill a MiG-9 when that other 109G and me crashed against each other. Nothing, absolutely nothing against that guy, nothing to be said. I mean, it was just pure bad luck. It was just well, shit happens. He couldn't see me, I couldn't see him. I didn't even know he was on the trail of that MiG-9, and we simply collided. It was sad because we should have won this. First of all, because I should have killed the MiG-9 you saw in the... And by the way, the comments in the comment section of the other video. I know the plane I'm flying and I know the weapon I'm flying. This plane had a 30mm on board in this video and in this game. It only had one. It didn't have the gun pods. I don't mount the gun pods in the G10 because they don't affect the flight model and it would be like cheating. But I do have the 30mm in the engine. And I do have it so much that before the game started I actually selected the proper ammunition for it. So really, if you are only here in the machine guns, it's not my fault. This plane has a 30mm cannon. And you also have seen my first kill. My first kill was a two-shot wonder, which is exactly what you expect from a 30mm, and that never happens when a 20. So, well, that's it. Also, to clarification. So, well, that's it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you had fun. Remember again, post up your questions and remember to upvote those questions that you want to see answered in the next Jam with Ron video. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching, and see you later.